Hi everyone, it's Tash McZombie and welcome to my channel, and most importantly, welcome back to the follow-up of my first book club, online book club, book review, meeting, whatever we want to call this. No dressy elephant in the room. I have no makeup on, my hair is wet and tied back because I'm just out the shower and I let my hair dry naturally, and yes, I'm in Batman PJs because I don't care. And basically I'm kind of like, I put pressure on myself to have this video uploaded on time for you all, and I'm just feeling a bit sick, so excuse the horrible appearance, but yeah, it's what it is. So in case you didn't watch part 1, I will link that above in the cards and in the description box below. So if you haven't watched part 1 of my book club, pause this video, go watch part 1, then come back to this one, because obviously this one will be filled with spoilers of the book. And if you don't want that, go watch part 1, read the book, then come back. Or don't, if you just want to know what the book is about. Anyway, so before we get in, I did post on my social media. I posted on my 2 Instagram accounts and my Twitter, and if you have me personally on Facebook, I did post on here a picture asking you guys for your thoughts and opinions and feelings on the book. No one replied, which is fine. So I'm kind of in a bit of like, do you guys actually, is anyone actually following along with this? Should I turn this more into like a monthly book review and just let you know what book I'll be reviewing? Let me know. Obviously, if you're watching this video and you want to comment, please do, because I will reply to all comments on the book, on your feelings and whatnot. So just thought I'd put that out there. But if you're not following me on Twitter or Instagram, I will link them below, so please go follow me on my Twitter and my 2 Instagram accounts if you would like, you know, your comments read out on the video and for me to kind of interact with your opinions, if that's something you would want. So just a quick reminder, the book that we were reading this month is Buffy the High School Years Freaks and Geeks, and it is a graphic fiction. And if you were also drinking along with me, the tea we were drinking is the Wittard Lucky Lychee. So the number 600 Lucky Lychee black tea with lychee flavouring. And that's it here, and which is what I have in my cup today. If you're wondering where I got my cup, I got this in Primark. So it's this cute Alice in Wonderland cup with the white rabbit. And in the back it says, I'm late for a very important date. And then I'm using my Wittard teapot infuser, which is like a ball infuser, because obviously this is a loose leaf tea. So yes, let's get into it. So first off, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really fun. I read it like that. It was a really quick, it's a very short book. Yeah, I think this is suitable for me, because I was saying in my last video that I was considering letting Ivy read Buffy comics because she really wants to start watching Buffy, but I don't think she's ready to watch it. So put it this way, I would let my 8-year-old read this book. It's not scary. I mean, obviously we have our demon and vampires appearing in here, but it's not scary at all. There's not really any swearing or sex references, if that's something obviously that would bother you. Not at all. So basically these series follow Buffy. So if you watched Buffy, you know that the first few seasons are set in Sunnydale High, where Buffy was in high school, which is built on top of the Hellmouth. So these kind of, I feel, are like fillers almost for like kind of recapturing what it was like to be a teenage Slayer, because we all know that Buffy became the Slayer when she was a teenager, and obviously she had to like adjust to her social life, being a teenager and being a Slayer, and all the complex issues in between. And that's what made Buffy so unique and different and interesting, but not a typical teenage drama. So for me, I think this is very much like, you could, if you'd never watched Buffy, like you could stick on season 1 and read these like in between episodes. It's like a little mini in between episode. is how I would see it, and probably if I hadn't read or watched Buffy, I would, and I plan on going back to season 1 and actually doing that, like trying to get as many of these as I can. I have 2, and just kind of reading them in between episodes. I think that's what they're really good for. Also, I think if you've never watched Buffy, there's not anything massively in here that you would be lost. I think because she mentions Angel, like at the end, she's talking to Willow about Angel, and he's like this mysterious, handsome guy she's kind of seen around. You know, I mean, if you don't know who Angel and Buffy are, where were you in the 90s? You know, they're kind of like a massive pop culture reference. So I would say, like, maybe that was the only tiny thing. If you hadn't watched Buffy and didn't know who Angel was, you'd be a bit like, who's this Angel guy? He's just some guy that Buffy likes. You know, there's nothing in it that's like, wait a minute, I need to go watch something or I need to go read something to catch up. So I think for the purposes of that, this is excellent. I think this is a really excellent introduction to the world of Buffy. I think this is perfect for a younger audience. It doesn't have an age rating on it. So yeah, I would agree this would be perfect for a younger audience. I think the story was cute. You know, the story kind of follows Buffy, and then there's this group of like goth vampires who are not getting let into this vampire club, and she's angry because that's how she was treated as a human. She sees Buffy, this perfect blonde all-American girl. You know, there's that kind of thing, and then the vampires kind of like manipulate Buffy, being like, oh, Willow was saying and Xander was saying that you're just like Cordelia, you're mean, you're horrible. You know, typical kind of high school drama stories, just with the added bonus of vampires, which I think is really cool. I think it's a really simple story. You know, it's nothing like in the Buffyverse that leaves you like, oh my god, I need to know what happens next. Not at all. This is really just a standalone little story, and I think it is really cute. My only critique of the story and the writing itself is when, here we go, what page? When the vampires, like, yeah, here, so page 56 and 57. So these panels, especially these panels here, so when Buffy like regards them in their makeup, in their goth attire, you know, she just starts laughing at them. You know, they turn up dressed how they dressed as humans. You know, this is what made them feel good. And Buffy just totally like laughs at them, laughs at the makeup, and the vampire kind of confronts her. But you know, it's just like, oh, we're just going to attack Buffy for being pretty and blonde. But then what bugs me is the fact that, like, okay, this was very characteristic of Buffy. She was very blonde, very popular, very pretty girly girl Buffy. She wasn't like Faith, who was like this total badass slayer outside of being a slayer. So I kind of felt like when Buffy's like laughing at the goths, and it's just a personal thing because that's how I used to dress. I'm a little goth. You know, I used to get picked on for how I would do my gothic makeup and dress up and try to fit in. So I kind of felt like a little bit like there was no repercussion for Buffy for being mean to them. I know they're vampires, but there was no like actual like, shit, she is being a bit of a nasty person here. And that was my only critique on the writing, is that I just kind of didn't, like, I understand why they put that in, but it kind of felt derivative to the point that they're trying to make, that Buffy isn't this mean Cordelia. Like, laughing at makeup is such like, that's what I would expect from Cordelia to do. And okay, thinking over especially the early seasons of Buffy would have probably laughed about that too, especially because they're vampires, you know. But I think just on like a stand of like a kind of anti-bullying stand, and because the audience that these books are targeted for, younger audiences, I do kind of think like that could have been reworked and maybe slightly rewritten and just kind of thought about the purpose of the story just a little better. I think, like, I mean, I say this, I'm critiquing a writer and I want to be a writer, but you know, and obviously these are well-established comic book writers. It's just, that's just the one thing that bugged me, and I know it's a character trait. I just kind of think, like, okay, I'm an adult and I can read this and not be offended by it, but if I read that as a child, like especially as a teenager, because I mean I've been watching Buffy like since I was like 7, you know, that would have upset me personally if I'd read this when I was younger. So I kind of felt like they still made Buffy a bully, which I don't think was the point. That's really my only kind of critique on the book itself, like on the story. I think the artwork is fantastic. Admittedly, it took me, so this is the kind of art style here. So we've got Willow here, and obviously if you've watched Buffy, you know straight away that that is Willow. But if you've read the other Buffy comics, you know that this artwork is very, very different to the other comics. We've got Buffy here. It's very like manga, anime style artwork kind of going on, which I have nothing against. I think the artwork is beautiful. I wish I could draw like this, you know. They really capture like facial expressions really well. I think at first it just took me a little while to get used to, because the cover art is so completely different. I mean, obviously the back cover is immediately different from the front cover. And I think because I've obviously read all the other Buffy comics, I'm used to that more kind of gritty, realistic art. And again, I think I understand why they've gone for this style of art, again, because it's appealing to a younger audience. It's not like, you know, the vampires really don't look scary. I mean, the vampires in Buffy don't really look scary because, you know, they were made in the 90s. I mean, I think they really do capture, like, facial expressions beautifully. I mean, I'm a shit artist. I spent 4 years in college doing art, and you would never know if you looked at my artwork, because my artwork's rubbish. But I mean, that was just my only thing. I could maybe see, like, other people, maybe, like, die-hard, like, Buffy readers being a bit like, that's just, sorry, I'm like that with, like, the new Scooby-Doo, because they've changed the artwork, and I hate it, and it totally ruins it for me. And that's just, like, a personal thing. I'm very attached to, like, how animation looks and how, like, particular artists render certain characters, and you become attached to that artist rendering. So when a new artist comes in, sometimes it's like when a new writer comes in on, like, your favorite TV show or graphic series or even, like, video games and stuff. You have a certain way that you're used to it, that you do have to kind of adjust to a new way. And that's not a critique on the artist or the writer at all, because I think the artwork is fantastic for the age that is targeted to. I think it's definitely kind of brought Buffy. This isn't Arthur, this is Buffy. I think it's definitely brought Buffy to a more modern, younger generation that aren't millennials, because let's face it, pretty much all Buffy fans are millennials, because we grew up watching Buffy and our parents watched Buffy, you know. So, like, what is it, Gen X or Gen Z, whatever my sister and my daughter are, after millennial. So I think it's definitely brought it to an audience that are younger. I mean, especially, like, this dream sequence was probably one of my favourite, like, pieces in it, because it's so trippy, it's so weird, it's so colourful, it's just bizarre, and it's nice. It's nice. So I definitely think it wins on that. I mean, as I said, my only critique is just that one little bit of dialogue that personally I wasn't, and that was just a personal thing, because I had to kind of think about, well, if I was reading this, or my daughter reading this, who also is very much, like, she's very different and a little goth and stuff, you know, just that one comment that Buffy makes is the only issue I have with it. Apart from that, I think the writing's great. I love the way that the letterer changes the writing when they're in vampire form. I think it stays perfectly true to the original characters. They definitely dress like they're in the 90s. Buffy still has that kind of sassiness about her that I love. Willow has that intense caringness. I also love that they didn't include Xander's creepy undying love for Buffy, which was so painful in the early seasons. And I love that this focused more on Buffy and Willow. And Xander's there. Xander's cool. Willow obviously still has feelings for Xander at this point. But I like that they kind of stepped away from that storyline and focused more on her friendship with Willow, more on her being on her own, fighting these vampires, going through her issues and growing up, rather than, you know, focusing on the creepy relationship that Xander has with Buffy. You know, and it wasn't so heavily focused on, like, let's just focus on girls talking about boys and girls fancying boys and boys fancying girls. I like that it stepped away from that and actually focus more on, like, a narrative and a story, and that wasn't even needed. I mean, obviously, if you know Buffy, you know all these things anyway, but if you didn't, I think it's quite nice that it didn't focus on that and it focused more on Buffy and her relationship with Willow and her struggles. So I think that's an absolute win. Like, it's definite, like, much more badass feminist if Buffy could even get any more badass feminist, you know. Yeah, I would say I really enjoyed this. I would definitely keep buying and reading the others in this series. I would definitely let my 8-year-old read these. Whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, like, for yourself to read, not parent judging. I mean, like, if you don't want to read stuff that an 8-year-old would happily read, that's cool. I mean, did I enjoy this as much as, like, seasons 8, 9, and 10 of the Buffy comics? No, because obviously the other Buffy comics are a lot more grittier, they're a lot darker, it's following on from where Buffy left off, there's a much bigger narrative going on there. So of course not, but I don't think it's fair to compare them either, because I definitely think this is, like, a great introduction to Buffy and a great, like, companion to watching the early seasons of Buffy. So yeah, I think this is wonderful that they brought this out. I think it's definitely worth reading them all and getting the collection. They're not numbered, so I think you can read them in any order, which I like. I think that's a really good bonus, especially, yeah. So I think in all, I would give this about an 8 out of 10, just because of that one bit of narrative really kind of let me down. And yeah, I think it's an excellent book. I think it's an excellent companion. I think it's, if you haven't read it yet, I think it's definitely worthwhile going and reading, especially if you are a Buffy fan, regardless of what age you are. I think you'll still get enjoyment out of it. I mean, I'm 28 and I loved it, and I know Ivy will love it. So yeah, and I think even if you haven't watched Buffy, I think it's definitely one that you could still read and get enjoyment out of it and actually kind of learn more about the character. And yeah, I think it's a great book all round. So what did you think? What did you think of the book? You know, would you read the others in the collection? Would you buy more or read more? You know, did you finish the book or did you hate it? Like, could you not even finish it? Did you think it was terrible? You couldn't finish it? Did you think it was boring? Did you think it was great? Like, amazing? This is what you've been wanting from Buffy? You know, what do you think of the storyline? I think it's also an important one, because I think the storyline was fine. I just had a couple of issues with it, but I think it was a pretty sweet storyline. But, like, what did you think? Like, what are your opinions on the book? What do you think of the artist and the writer? You know, if you haven't watched Buffy, but you've read this, would this encourage you to go and watch Buffy? I guess is, like, a big thing. Yeah, so please comment down below with any thoughts or feelings or questions on the book, because I really would love to have, like, a conversation about it. If not, then this, I guess, will just kind of turn into, like, a monthly book review thing, but I probably will do the same setup where I'll film a video at the start of the month introducing the book, telling you about it, introducing a tea for the month, and then film a follow-up at the end of the month with my thoughts and feelings on the book, and hopefully some of you guys' thoughts and feelings as well. You know, because I would love to share that. I would love for this to become more of a sharing experience rather than me just sitting down and talking to you. That was kind of the whole point of this. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already and you would like to be, and you would like to keep up to date with any further book reviews and my book club series, please hit that subscribe button down below and hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button so you're definitely updated when I upload videos, in case you are wanting to just follow this series. I do lots of other videos on my channel. I do unboxings, I do videos with my daughter, I do hauls, just general chit chat stuff. So I would love to have you here. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you're all doing well, and I'll be back in either tomorrow or on Friday, probably Friday, with part 2 when we'll go and pick the next book we will be reading. I think for next month, I think I'm going to go and do a novel and kind of mix it up so we're not just doing graphic novels each time, and see how we do with that and kind of see what everyone's feeling. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.